Hello, this is Kyle from Midnight Paranormal Files, but back again for another episode of this podcast. Today we are talking about Bozo, the lake monster, Lake Mendota. It okay, so the lake is right next to University of Wisconsin, right next to Highway 151 and 113. The sighting has occurred throughout the entire lake. This monster is described as a sea serpent. Septics think that it's a log, basically, that's flowing on the lake. Uh, anyway, it's either that or tipped over boats, waves, rocks, swimmers, etc. But some septics that see this sort of thing sees it come to life. So anyway, we're gonna be talking about the history of this thing now, and I'll put in my brains into it, and you can think whatever you want. It's up to you. Anyway, the history of it is the Native Americans were the first to record sightings. White settlers actually gave the monster a name, and that name was Bozo. The legend tells of a giant serpent taking a shower bath in the lake. Of the earliest sightings of the creature that was recorded happened during the 1860s by W.J. Park and his wife boating near Governor's Island, and they were rowing around the lake and pulled up next to what they thought was a floating log. When Parker went to smack the log, the water erupted and the log dove under the water. They thought that they seen a lake monster, but they didn't. Or they didn't want to be ridiculed, so they kept it to themselves. It wasn't until the creature got spied by a bunch of others that they shared their experiences. In 1883, a man named Billy Dunn encountered the creature. Both Dunn and his wife were fishing what was called Life's Eye Bluffs when he noticed a black object moving threatening towards them. As the creature approached Dunn, Dunn saw the outline of the creature, describing it as a large snake as it rose up several feet out of the water. The tongue of the thing darted fiercely backwards and forwards. The experienced fisherman was not intimidated by the creature. He seized his orc and got ready to attack the serpent. The serpent hissed at him and shot upon the boat and was quickly greeted by Dunn's oar. The serpent clamped its long fangs that were black. It went through the wooden oar, is what I meant to say. Dunn grabbed his side holster hatchet and began smashing on the serpent. Being beaten and full of blood, the serpent released itself and disappeared into the water. Dunn doesn't know the length of it, but sounded like it was really big and said that it was a light greenish color covered with white spots. A different eyewitness a few days later saw the creature and later said it has a large head flat on top and square like a box. The creature head stood a good 3 feet out of the water and was connected to a 25-foot body. 3 weeks after that, October 28th, a number of young men went sailing. Later on, the dozen sailors caught a good view of the serpent. It was huge in the water. All of them think that it was about 35 feet long or 30 feet long, about around that length. Anyway, about about anyway, nobody had the firearms One of the last sightings on record was in 1917 when a group of university students was enjoying the beach of Picnic Point. We will be talking about Picnic Point in another podcast episode. They stumbled upon fish scales or what looked like it. They were curious, so they brought it back to the professor, who the professor thinks it came from a sea serpent. The story opened the floodgates for others to open up and tell their stories of the odd things happening there. Same year, a fisherman was fishing at Picnic Point at a distance of 100 feet. He spotted a snake like head. He thought it was a serpent with large jaws and blazing eyes emerged from the depths of the water. The man couldn't do nothing but stare at the creature and eventually fled from the shoreline, leaving his equipment behind. No, those are just the eyewitness sightings that happened throughout the years. Um, anyway, so we are going to be talking about more information, or why I like to call it more information. This is like my ideas of what it is, or even if it's real or whatever. It's still up to the listener, which is you, to know if this thing is real or not. So let's begin. Now, Lake Mendota depth is 82 feet at the lowest point and 9,740 acres for the surface of the lake. So it could kind of be possible for a creature that size could live in the body of water. But the average depth of the lake is 42 feet. A few things I don't understand is that if it's that big, like what the eyewitnesses said, then where is it getting its food from? Is it a carnivore or plant eater? We will never know, and also the creature would be almost touching the ground. But that's even if you believe the monster to begin with. For me, since the last sightings that have been recorded was over 100 years ago, and one of the most studied lakes in America, it's hard to say that the serpent was real to begin with, but sometimes you wish it was real. So that's my thoughts about it and stuff with this monster. So what do you think about this monster? Do you think it's a real monster, or do you think it's a hoax, or do you think it's just eye illusions that's something else, like a rock or something? I'll be putting this up for a poll for everybody. So, well, I don't know how to do on YouTube, but on everything else that you're listening to, I could put this up and ask everybody that way. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode of this podcast. I know it's a little bit different than what we normally do, kind of, not really. And I hope you enjoyed the episode and leave a review and give us a like or rating or whatever too. And I'll talk to everybody in the next episode.